Okay, guys, I'm gonna let Brent actually, or Conrad actually introduce Brent, and you guys are gonna kind of tag team a little bit up here.
We are going to tag team.
So I've had them in my office before. I got a little bit of educate on this. It was a new topic for me as well. So I'm excited for this because it's one more tool for our clients that gives us, in our role as the protector and as the people that guide them through their transactions. And sometimes that's bringing up something they wouldn't have known existed unless you attended a class like this. I love it when people tell, I never have heard of that before, or nobody's ever told me about that. Those are the kind of things that really end up benefiting people, especially when they're getting maybe a little bit older and they don't want management responsibilities or whatever. This is a great option. So I'm going to let these guys roll into it. I'm already recording it. Other people, as they jump on, we'll just kind of have to pick up where we are. We are going to record this, but Dave, Anthony, feel free to unmute yourself, ask questions along the way. Absolutely. And we can make this interactive.
Awesome. So my name is William Conrad Bowen. I go by Conrad. I have been a real estate agent for 15 years. I have an advertising and marketing background. I've had my own advertising design business in Los Angeles and also in Salt Lake City. I did advertising for seafood companies. And at a point in time, my daughter said, "Hey, Dad, you should get involved in real estate," which I did. And I have loved it since then. So this is Brent Stratton from Stratton Investments. Brent has 52 years of investment real estate experience. It is awesome. He has been selling tenant-in-common properties for about 20 years. When I first met Brent 8 years ago, he was single, and it's been probably 3 years.
3 years. 3 wonderful years.
So his wife passed away. First wife passed away, and he, through his kids, with one of his sons, was introduced to a lady named Jan, and they ultimately got together. Her husband passed away, and they have been married for 3 years, and we just have had lots of fun ultimately together. So we're here to talk about tenant-in-common properties. It is a great investment for a particular type of client, and we will get in ultimately into the details of that. Brent?
Thank you, Conrad. How many do we have on the, are we ready to go on the line?
Yeah, we're on the line.
All right, so some of the names, who do we have with us? Do we see the names?
So Anthony.
All we've got right now is Jeff, Lynn, Anthony, and David.
Jeff, Anthony, David, welcome. God bless us. We're glad to be here. Okay, so you can see the that comes up pretty good. Okay.
So that's forward, that's reverse.
Okay, so thank you, Conrad. Yeah, I've been doing, in 2004, folks, I got involved in this. It's a specialized investment vehicle for people, and it doesn't work for everyone, but it works wonderful for people who need it. And my role with Conrad is to get the word out. I go into a lot of real estate offices and they say, "I've never heard of this. Where have you been? How come we didn't know you before?" So we're just glad to be here and talk about this. So let's just get started. Oh, there we go. Okay. So who is our typical? I've done almost 90 million, a duplex, a single family house, some land at a time. And since 2004, that's 18 years ago, I got started. Typically, they're older. You can see the chart. Typically, they're doing a 1031 sale exchange, deferred. They don't want to pay the capital gains tax. Or I've had people take money out of the bank, say, "I'm not earning anything in the bank. Why don't I invest some money?" Or I've done a few 401ks, IRAs, and so all those are available for investment in these vehicles. Most people are retirement age. Well, what do you mean by retirement age? Well, we want to retire as soon as we can, but typically the person says, I've owned this duplex or fourplex or land for many years. I've got a free and clear, I paid the mortgage off, and I want to sell. I do not want to be a owner landlord anymore. I never want to see another tenant get a call in the middle of the night that the air conditioning doesn't work, or there's a leaky roof or something. They say, I don't want to do that anymore, but I don't want to pay all the taxes. So what do? A lot of real estate agents say, well, you guys, you've got this duplex. How about we see if we can put you in an eightplex. We can increase your real estate ownership. And people say, no, wait a minute. I don't want 8 tenants to deal with, I want a different way to own. And this is what that is. So let's see what. Oh, if you have any questions, ask them. Any question is a good question. Thank you. Okay. All right. Thank you, Jan. She's part of the team. Okay. Yeah. So it preserves our assets. It's an asset preservation. The number one issue with people I deal with is I do not want to lose my nest egg.
Well, and not only that, but they want to be able to keep it in real estate and have all the benefits of ownership of real estate.
They have to keep it real estate.
Yeah.
But the rules of 1031 exchange are you sell real estate, you own title. You're on title in real estate and you move to title in real estate. Well, how do I do that and have a different life experience? And so Tenant-In-Common, one of the questions is, it's about how am I going to spend my time? How do I want to spend my time as a person in this a little older in time? Slow down. I'm speaking too fast. Thank you. All right. So they are risk averse. They don't want to lose that.
I don't think you're speaking too fast, but
Maybe,
I love it.
maybe you gotta go with
I love that you have
the
her.
Hey, we're having fun here. This is a fun experience. Okay. So risk averse, and they don't want to be enacted. Okay. So here is the Tenant-In-Common is an acronym for, TIC is an acronym for Tenant-In-Common. Everyone has, the beauty of this, I like, is everyone has a recorded deed in their name that gives them all the rights of ownership. They get all the benefits. If they own 10.3% or 15.2 or 26.4, whatever the percent of ownership is, you have a recorded deed and you have undiluted benefit of all the rent, all the increase in value, all the depreciation. It's a beautiful way to own. So that's the idea.
So we're talking about one property that there are multiple owners in, and they own a portion, an undivided portion of that property.
Right.
So it's managed, it's
This is the next, let's go to the next. Okay, this is the picture. So on the left, I guess I can't point at it. On the left, you see your client owns a investment property, a single family home, a duplex, fourplex, any kind of real estate or land. They want to sell through a 1031 exchange. What are they going to buy? So this is so what you have is like Conrad said, you have individual deeds for ownership based upon how much they want to buy the property. If it's a $3 million property, they can buy whatever percent they want to buy. So then you have the property management company that manages the property. Mountain City Commercial in Ogden, Jim and Brett Hendershot are the management company. They manage about over 30 of these properties now. They have all the accounting set up and all the software to manage for Tenant-In-Common. They are responsible to collect the rent each month, distribute it based upon percent of ownership, based upon who owns. The cost is $25 per month per owner. And they collect the rent every month. Every owner gets a electronic payment schedule. So they're usually direct deposits. Some people want a check in the mail, but that's okay. But typically it's a direct deposit in your account. You get an email that says, hey, it's coming. This is what's happened on the property. The rent came in. This is where it went. So there's accountability every month. And so this is the structure. Now on the bottom, you'll see what's the role of the sponsor. I worked with a couple of different sponsors as an independent real estate agent myself, and they are responsible to go out and find the properties. It's a big world out there. So what do you buy? Where do you find them? So their responsibility as a sponsor is to find the properties, And we deal in three kinds of properties, three industries. We deal in retail. That's Dollar General, Family Dollar, Tractor Supply, those kind of properties. We deal in the auto parts industry, in AutoZone, O'Reilly Auto, Advanced Auto. We like those. And then we like the medical. And we have two major tenants. We have DaVita Dialysis and Fresenius Medical. And they provide dialysis for people who have kidney failure and so on. So we deal in retail and auto parts and in the medical. We like those three industries.
Okay, so those properties are located throughout the United States. So these investments are investments that you make on these properties dependent upon where these guys find the properties, find the best deal, and find a really good investment.
So they bring it to the market and they say, okay, Brent, we have closed on the transaction. We've done all the due diligence. We have title insurance. We've looked at the demographics. We've done a on-site inspection with the condition of the property. They've done all the work, said, okay, here it is. We bought it. We've closed it by the whole. Now you can go. Is there anyone you're working with that would like to buy by the slice?
Yeah.
It's best to contact. Close by the whole, sell by the slice.
So Brent, why those industries? Is that just proven track record, consistency, cash flow?
That's good, Jeff, good question. We deal with blue chip companies. You want to make, the last thing you want is a rent that not be paid or a vacancy. So we look at what's the probability of paying rent over a long period of time, number one. Number two is, are they going to stay there? How long are they going to stay in that location? One of the reasons we like the medical is because Fresenius and DaVita as tenants, they put $800,000 or $900,000 in improvements in the location because you've got all the medical issues of cleanliness, you've got dialysis going on. I mean that's a very serious medical procedure, and it takes a lot of improvements for the location to do that. And so that's a very serious financial commitment for them to be there.
So in addition to that, these are 10-year leases that these tenants make, and they're renewable. The properties are cash purchases, so it's no debt in terms of the investor. So it is a very conservative, very safe investment that gives you would give your client a consistent return.
Well, and they're net leases too. By net leases, we mean the tenants pay the rent each month, and then they pay the real estate taxes in every case. They pay the property insurance premium in every case. And most of the repairs, if it's an absolute net, and we have a couple of those right now, they pay all the repairs and maintenance. In some cases, it's a modified net, which means the owners may be responsible for the structure or the parking lot or something. But most of the repairs in every case are done by the tenant. It's a net lease. Secondly, a lot of things that people like, let me mention that these people are a little older in age, and they say, well, what's going to happen to this investment property when mom and dad are gone? So I suggest they set up on their estate that it would transfer to their children or to whoever they'd like it to. Yeah, and there's a step, and from a tax standpoint, because they don't want to pay the capital gains tax, that's why they're doing a 1031 deferred exchange. A 1031 doesn't make the tax go away, it defers. It's called 1031 deferral of taxes. So the idea is there's a step up in tax basis. When mom and dad pass on and it goes to the children, then there's a step up in tax basis. And I deal with some of the children, the mom and dads, I've been doing this long enough that some of the mom and dads are gone and it's gone to the children. And right now I am dealing with some siblings of mom and dad have gone. They said to Brent, it's great to get the monthly check, but we'd like to have the capital to divide it up and do what we want with it. And so I'm doing that, providing that service, selling their assets, and they can divide up the money. And so, but there's a step up in tax basis, which means they pay no tax. In other words, at the time the mom and dad pass away, that is the basis for taxation. Yeah. So did I flip that? Whoops, sorry. Let's go back for a minute.
Does anybody have any
Yeah,
questions?
let's talk about any questions at this point. Okay.
Yeah, I had one question.
Got one.
So on a 1031, this is, there may be multiple investors that are selling a property and putting it into the TIC
Right.
as part of the pie owner, so to speak. And is that's correct, right? That my
Correct.
understanding? And then I thought I heard you say that these are all cash purchases, so there's no debt, bank loans or anything involved with that purchase?
That's correct.
Okay.
They're all debt. They're all free. There is no debt at all. In the initial acquisition, there's no debt. There's no debt by any tenant-in-common purchaser. It's a completely free and clear asset, totally.
Okay.
What if you don't have enough people to invest in it 100% when you're trying to buy it? How does that work?
You mean when the property comes out?
When you find a new property, let's say you've got investors that'll take up 70% of the chunk, who's holding the other 30%?
Well, the sponsor holds the interest, and as people come in and buy it, their interest goes down. We've never had a situation where we haven't sold one. There is so much demand for these properties. We've never had a problem selling them.
Okay,
In fact, the problem is having enough inventory.
Right,
Yes.
We don't, there's,
that makes sense.
because they're so attractive. So, yeah, that could happen, Lynn, that what do you do if you're sold 70%, you've got 30% unsold? That, we've never had that problem. And I've been doing it for, we've done over 500 million of these.
So what's
in the
your
last-
average return? Is it like a 6%?
The target return, our target return now is 6%. And so that's on a modified repair and maintenance arrangement. For example, that maybe the owners will be responsible for some of the repairs. So we figure 6% is the target. If it's an absolute net, which means the owners are not responsible for any repairs, the returns are 5%. And we figure about a 50 basis point benefit for not having any responsible over time for any repairs.
so Brent, why don't you get into and cover when a product comes in as a tenant-in-common option and how over time that return increases?
Oh, thank you. They start at
Jan,
5.
throw an elbow if you have to.
Jan wants to say something.
I,
Just
so
work
I'm
your
the-
way in there.
I'm his better half.
She's in.
I'm his better half. And my father was a commercial broker, so I grew up with real estate my whole life.
In California.
In California, Sacramento, California. We've been married for 3 years. When I first married Brent, I found out about the 1031 exchange, TIC. And you are personally invested in how many properties?
3 myself.
And 2 in Texas.
One in Waco, Texas, one in Bowie, Texas, one in Minnesota. And then Jenny came
2 of
on
us together own a portion of,
a Tractor Supply property in Georgia.
and I love the medical. It was between the Tractor Supply or the medical. The medical is wonderful. We actually have been on site on some of these properties together in our travels. So I just wanted to mention that.
Well,
Awesome.
that validates what you're saying, right?
Yes.
Shows
Yeah.
that you're investing in what you're selling.
We're
Yeah,
investing in what we're selling.
Yeah, I have a lot of my retirement because of own real estate over time myself is in these tenant-in-common. But it's a beautiful way to own because it's a lifestyle choice.
Yeah.
How do I want to spend my time?
We don't lose our money.
Do I want to be a owner landlord and worried about the property wherever I am? Or I got these net lease properties with a property management company that oversees
Stable
everything,
tenants.
a terrific tenant that's there for a long term. And what Conrad was saying is, and answer your question, Lynn, our target is to start at 6%, but those rents go up over time.
And that's a
Because
really
there's-
good point, because that's why some of us don't want to give up our real estate, because we get the appreciation. So back to what Conrad's saying is a good point.
Yeah.
The rent does go up over time in every case. It's sometimes each year it goes up, sometimes every 5 years, a 10% increase, but it does go up over time.
So the rent goes up, but then also, let's say you wanted to sell, would you make more selling than what you put in?
Well, the question of appreciation is an interesting dynamic in that what you've got is you've got a long-term lease. I mean, there's 30, 40 years
Mhm.
with a legal document that says that tenant has the right to be there in that space. And here's the rent schedule over 40 years. And so the question is, when are you going to capture what I call overall real estate market appreciation? And and it typically is when the lease expires and you're going to
Do a new one.
negotiate a new lease, or the property goes vacant and you get a new tenant in.
So that's technically between 5 and 20 years plus. So something else that we haven't talked about is that you buy into a TIC property, and it's like any other real estate, you can sell it whenever you want to. You
Well,
don't.
what
have-
Lynn's asked, everyone asked this question. There's two critical questions as I go through this. People say, this is great. People say this is the best thing since sliced bread. I'm an older person. I don't want to be an active landlord, but if I get in, how do I get out? We'll talk about that in a minute. And what's my appreciation? And the issue is, well, wait a minute now, we've got a long-term cash flow. A corporate guarantee standing behind that lease, with a blue chip tenant, publicly traded company, you know you're going to get rent over time. When can I capture that increase in value to overall real estate values as they go up? It's when the tenant moves out and you can negotiate the lease to a higher, rental rate, and you can capture that. So what's that now? You got a question, Janny? Go ahead.
I'm mentioning the fact that I love
Come on.
hello again. I love the fact that my husband works strictly on referrals. He doesn't have to go out and look for people because they love the product. And the people that love the product, you have a couple of clients. One is a real estate agent, actually a broker. And she's a little older and she is tired of owning these properties, taking care of them, the landowner. And she is going on and on buying, I don't know how many things she has bought from you, but most of the time.
She's bought about 6 or 7 properties.
She's bought, and she's continuing, and so is your other client. So who's the attorney?
Yeah.
I'm just saying that once someone buys into the TICs, they love them.
They've been great for us.
Yes.
They've been great for
we
me.
love them.
And so, yes. It's not, I'm not
But
gonna
he
get my
only works on
check when they
referrals.
come in. When they
Well,
come in by the 15th.
Like you said, it appeals to a certain type of investor,
Yes.
the carefree,
Yes.
no responsibility. I've
They
paid
wanna
my
go on vacation
dues.
and get their
I
check
want
every month.
stability without the headaches.
Right.
Yeah, they wanna go.
You're gonna get your cash flow over time.
Mhm.
It's the question, when are you gonna capture that increase in value? And it depends upon the market dynamics, returns, and the international and national economic cycles we go through. But you're not gonna capture all of the increase in real estate value until the tenant moves out, or until you renegotiate that long-term lease.
I would assume though, that would be less important for an elderly client that is looking for monthly stable
Yes.
income, lifestyle.
Exactly.
Equity can go up and down, and if they're not planning on selling, they're planning on creating the income source.
Correct.
So
Exactly.
that's what this is.
The issue is, I want to maintain my value of my nest egg. These do not lose value. They do go up in value. But there's the increase in value is based upon the rent schedule over time. And so you've got a long-term rent schedule, predictable in the lease term. Because it's a 10 to 15 year beginning, then a 5-year extension typically. And every time there's a 5-year extension, the rent goes up. So you've got that predictable cash flow over time. You know the tenant's going to be there. And that's what they're concerned about. They want to preserve that nest egg. They don't want to lose value.
That's a big concern today, where people are losing their
Oh,
retirements.
absolutely. And they want a predictable cash flow over time. If a person wants to double their money in a short term, I say this is not the game. This is not the game for a short term, buy in and sell, this is not the game, but it doesn't have the risk of that either. I mean, I know people who, flip, buy and they flip and so on. It's great while the market's good, but then you get caught in the downturn. And then all of a sudden, all the money that they made is at risk. Anyway, That's kind of a conceptual response?
I'm in a different age group. That's why that's a concern for me, but I can see where the age group that would be like my mom's age or maybe in the 60s, that's totally what they want is that. And so they wouldn't be asking the same questions I'm asking.
No.
You know, so, but I have helped, people younger than me get into TICs and they want us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a way to own real estate without the headaches and hassles.
Yeah, and it's a
So
pain in
you're
the butt.
not.
It really is.
If
It
you
could
put
also
it, if
be-
you put it in the bank, which some people have chosen to do, it just runs through their hands.
Yeah.
It's like water in your hand.
But you lose a huge
And
chunk
you-
of it to the IRS.
And
That's why they
the
call it
IRS,
liquidity.
40% of the
Yeah,
IRS.
yes. And you make 0.5% in the bank.
Well, it could be a good way to
Yes.
diversify a portfolio too. It doesn't, all their equity doesn't have to be tied up in a tick, but having a portion of it that's secure and stable, and maybe you got other riskier investments, that's common for people.
I think it's an amazing avenue for people that own real estate because there are families that have owned it forever. And this is.
And it goes on to the children.
Exactly.
That's what I love.
It's the
You have to
legacy.
step up in tax
stuff.
basis
Go
when
on
it
to the
transfers to
children.
the,
Yes.
from one generation to another.
Mhm.
There's some real benefits. So most of the people, getting back to the profile of the typical client is they want to they want to have a little bit a younger person in their 30s, 40s, 50s that want to have a little bit of real estate, but they don't want the headaches and
Portfolio,
hassles.
just expand their portfolio.
But most people have got their nest egg. They're in their 60s and 70s and 80s. And they say, okay, what do I do to keep this nest egg going? I don't want to be
Make it
an
last.
owner landlord anymore. They made that decision. And they go to the real estate agent and say, help me. What can I do? And so the idea is you say, well, have you thought, you understand about the tenant-in-common option for you as an older owner, or older age person? Well, what is it? And here's the benefit.
Mhm.
You preserve that nest egg for the rest of your life. When mom and dad go, even if they sell let's say they have 300,000 in their duplex. Okay. If they sell it and pay the taxes, there could be up to 40% of that 300,000. That's a lot of money. Even if there's no increase in value over, say, 4 or 5 years or 10 years if a person, ends their life, then their children sell for 300,000, the 40% of taxes are gone. They made a 40% increase in value after tax with no appreciation. So one of the real benefits is from a tax planning standpoint.
So.
Follow? Is that clear up? Does that make sense enough? What I just said?
Who is on the line? Are these people that have real estate or are these agents?
These are.
These are
These are agents?
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is a fantastic vehicle for us to help our clients. Because they don't know about these options. In fact, I talked to a few agents that didn't even know what a TIC was. And it's a way to save your client from paying those big dollar amounts and have a safe vehicle with a good interest.
So my daughter Rachel is an agent and she has a client who is selling like $1.3 million worth of real estate. And they want to have property that they can do rentals in, but they want to take a portion of that and put it in something secure like a TIC. And because it's a 1031 exchange, you can allocate different funds to different portions. So there's some flexibility with that. We have not also talked about how much flexibility there is between the different types of properties that are offered.
Well, because the minimums are 100,000. If you've got 500,000, for example, you could invest in 2 or 3 properties. So
that's important to know. That
Yeah.
the minimum on a TIC investment is 100,000.
So one thing I want to point out too, because we're all agents, is our clients don't know what they don't know. You'd be surprised how many of them don't even understand how a 1031 tax deferral exchange works. So when they do understand that, they think they have to buy one property or sell one property and then buy another one in whole. The great thing about this is your pie example is whatever they have is workable instead of like, oh, I got to find a property worth X. or more in order to maximize their 1031 exchange. You can maximize it and be a tenants in common and have a separate deed of ownership,
Yeah.
aside from, you're not partners. That's one thing that I think might be confusion.
They're not partners.
They're not partners with the other owners.
Co-owners. It's a group of owners that own, they have all the same benefit. There's nobody has more benefit than another.
Right.
They're all equal in the benefit, undiluted benefit. Comment, Jenny?
I just did, yes, I've been for 3 years married, and we have met with several people. The nice thing about this, as an agent, you refer the agent to
Us.
us, to Brent or to, and then we go and we explain all of this to that person. And most of the time, they purchase the TICs. And it's great because as an agent, you benefit from the,
Yeah, we're gonna talk about that.
yes. the
Okay,
referral
so just to conclude, to move on now, so they can either take all of their exchange money and invest in several TIC, 1 or 2 or 3 tenant-in-common properties. Or if they say, oh, well, I want to buy something in St. George, for example, want a rental house down there or something like that. And I said, well, I have $324,000 or $112,210 left in my exchange. What do I do with it? They can put it in here. So it can become finish up the exchange. So they're all invested, or they can take all their money and diversify in the tenant-in-common. So there's a lot of flexibility.
So it rounds out your real estate portfolio.
Yeah. So, okay, let's go to another. So these are just some examples, the industries, the medical. This is a property that we've done in, where is this one? In Kansas? Yeah, in Kansas. This is a Fresenius Medical. We like these. We like the retail, the Family Dollar. And then we like the auto parts, AutoZone or Tires Plus, any kind of auto related parts. We really like those. Now, what are the advantages? In my experience in commercial investment real estate, these are considered institutional quality property. This is what pension funds buy. And so you own institutional quality real. Now, a duplex is not institutional quality. It's a great investment property, but it's not institutional quality. So you really stepped up in the quality of the investment. You've got third-party management. You can close because it's not. A lot of people enter a 1031 exchange, say, well, I've got to identify some properties. Can I really close on it? I've got to do all the inspection. What if there's a problem? They run into a roof problem, or there's something wrong with the property, or on the title or the condition of the property. What do they do? These have all been vetted. In other words, all the inspection, all the demographics, all the legal issues are all resolved. It's which one do I buy and how much do I buy of each one? So you can't, and you can't diversify because the minimums are 100,000. Okay. We don't do franchises. Why? Because they're more risky. We like the net lease concept, long-term lease with a corporate guarantee that makes sense. A corporate guarantee by a blue chip company. And a lot of people say, now, Brent, are you telling me this is a guarantee? And I said, well, let's understand what a corporate guarantee means. A corporate guarantee says the corporation, the financial statement, the credit rating of the corporation stands behind those lease payments. So during the time of that lease, as long as that lease is in operation, they will pay rent.
So when all the Kmart's went out of business, rent was still being paid on those buildings?
If the lease was in place.
in a situation
Yes.
like this,
They-
yes.
Yes, that in fact did happen. The location became vacant because the lease was in place, a legal obligation, they still paid the rent.
Happened with Albertsons too.
Okay. So one of the things I've tried to do as a real estate professional is, okay, where do these sit on the line of risk and return? Everything has some element of risk. There isn't anything in life that has no risk. So when I say it's LOW, low risk, I didn't say no risk, I said low, LOW risk. Well, what is the risk? We're going to talk about that. But in my professional opinion, on the risk return line of what all the different choices are available for real estate investment, a long-term lease with a blue chip corporation is the lowest risk. And the way you evaluate risk is what's the quality of the tenant and what's the length of the lease. The other thing from a risk standpoint, because there's no debt, they're the lowest risk from a structure standpoint. Any amount of risk or any amount of debt increases the element of risk. If it's a 50% debt or any amount of debt increases the risk, because they could come and knock on the door and say, pay, or I'm going to take the property from you. So what I did is in the what I call when things went south on us in the 2000, excuse me, 7, 8, when about 3 or 4 years I was in this business, I said, okay, what happened to these companies? So the blue line is the stock performance, and the red line is the overall stock index for that industry. So Family Dollar did well. There's another Family Dollar that we did down in Texas. The auto parts do terrific. In what happens when things get tough? People repair their cars. They go to the auto parts stores and like to buy the repairs because they have their brother do it or friend or something. So they do well. Medical does really well. Because especially in dialysis, what's going to happen when the market goes bad? Do people not have all of a sudden lose their need for dialysis? No. It's a do I want to stay alive and continue my life experience? Do I do dialysis? So they do very well. There's another property in Pennsylvania we did. Okay. So we like the industries that perform above or do well in the good and the difficult times, the cycles of the market. They're blue chip companies, and you have a meaningful corporate guarantee. Okay. Oh, question. Another reason we like the medical is, and we like to go in states where, let me just back up here a minute. I think there's one, whoop, I'm going the wrong way. Here we go. That's the next, here we go. Let's see. So we like to have, by these medical facilities, in what's called a certificate of need state. What does that mean? That means that to open your doors and to provide dialysis in a certificate of need state, you need to have a certificate from the health department of the state that the need for dialysis is not being met. Now, why is that important from an investment standpoint? It eliminates your competition. Of course, we want, if people need dialysis, we want to provide that service, but you don't have 4 gas stations on one corner competing against each other. The only way you can have a competing dialysis clinic is if the need's not being met. That's a really important characteristic of the medical. That's one of the reasons we like them. Okay, let's move on. Okay.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
Were you part of developing this whole thing? Kind of who they're investing in? Were you part of this creation or?
In 2004, yeah, it was kind of getting started. And the idea was what works best for the older, the profile of the typical client. You know, preserving their nest egg, preserving that cash flow over a long period of time, and so on. And these kind of properties met that, was the greatest alignment with that need.
I agree with what you came from. I was just curious if you were part of the development of all of it.
So the thing that makes the difference with Tenant-In-Common, and I believe if I recall correctly, that they come into existence in either 1961 or 1967. The thing that made the difference is the government providing the 1031 exchange option in the 2000s, which facilitated the opportunity of further developing the portion concept of.
So
What really pushed the industry into the forefront was the IRS said, okay, you can sell real estate through a 1031 exchange and replace it with a fractional ownership interest. And here are the requirements.
So that happened in the early 2000s?
That in early 2001, 2000, you know, late 1999, 2000, 2001. It's called the Rev Proc of 2001. When the IRS said, okay, Mr. and Mrs. owner of the duplex, you know, you can sell through a 1031 exchange over here, and you can buy a fractional interest, and here's how it happens. Before then, they had to buy the whole property.
Mhm.
And so that really opened up the market for, the smaller, a lot of people, but primarily for the smaller investor and the medium-sized investor. I mean, if you don't have, people can't play in the big market. It's a big market. If I sell my 300,000, where do I put that money? That's why a lot of people don't sell. See, because where do I put my money? This is an answer to that question.
Well, and the capital gains is just getting higher too. I mean, there's a lot of things that are working against investors right now with the new rules and laws that they're creating. So it is best for someone to put it into something like this where they're getting a good return.
So this is for a small investor, relatively.
Not necessarily.
Okay,
Let me tell you
Yeah.
about one client that I just within the last 6 months. It was a older lady. Appropriate, I'm not gonna give a lot of detail, but appropriate details. Okay, older lady, a widow. Her husband had passed on, they had developed a commercial property, and it was being sold for about 1.8 million. And she said, what, that's a lot of money. She could have played in the big market, but she said, what do I do? From a time standpoint, where do I invest that money? Well, she invested in 3 Tenant-In-Common properties. In 2 medical and 1 retail. And she said, this is the best thing since sliced bread.
And she's a.
I get my check every month for my 3 properties, I diversify, I've got a recorded deed, so if something happens to me, my children can sell and not pay it. It was a beautiful thing. And she's in her early
Very
70s.
happy with it.
Very, very happy. So, okay, anyway, so what is the risk then? There's nothing but NO risk, but what about low risk? Well, the risk is at the end of the period of the initial lease or even an extension, the tenant says, we're not going to renew. We're not going to extend. Even though I have the right, I'm not going to renew it. We're going to close up shop and go somewhere else. That is a risk. Well, what happens? Well, there's no debt, no mortgage, so the owners pay the taxes and the maintenance, and the property management company gets a new tenant. That does, of the 300 or 400 properties, that's happened 2 or 3 times. Not very often, but it does. And you get a new tenant. How does it benefit? What's that? Oh, this next one. We're coming. That's the next one. Okay. Jenny's excited to see, how do you real estate agents get benefit? Okay.
The agent wants to know how it benefits them. I would want to know how it would.
Well, there's a 3% referral fee. Okay. We're gonna go there. If any real estate agent that refers someone to Conrad and I, there's a 3% referral fee commission paid to your broker, which is your broker company.
Which is super exciting.
3%.
Because you guys are doing all the work. We're just actually
Yes.
teaching people
One of
about
his
it.
agents received a check for $60,000 and
Yeah.
said, I did hardly anything except refer them to you.
But you
Right,
also, she
yes.
also saved, or he saved their client a
That's
lot
right.
of money.
Yes.
A lot of money.
So
Yes.
that's really the important factor.
Well, that's
is
why
that-
you're so passionate about it, because
Yes,
you see
yes.
that people don't have the knowledge.
Yeah, exactly.
And we're pretty passionate about it too.
Yeah.
And so I'm sad we don't have more people online because.
Well, we'll
it's
get
something
the
we
word
need to
out.
know
Word
about.
out.
It can be
you know.
shared.
We're good. Yeah. So that's a typical commission that an agent would make by doing all the work, where a referral fee is usually 25% of the gross
A
commission
three, yeah.
income.
Right.
It really doesn't seem fair.
I know. But
Which is
he-
awesome
but
for us.
He's passionate and loves the work that he does. I watch him with this.
Wait, I
And
think
he-
you are too.
I am too. Well, I am because I've been so content and happy with what the product is and the checks personally, the checks that we have coming in every month that we really don't have to worry about. And you've already talked about the management company, or have you? Yes.
So Brent,
I mean,
how,
it's just-
how old is your dad? He's 97.
97 and
So he owned, so he owned the golf course in Utah County,
in Orem,
in Orem.
Cascade Golf Course.
Yeah.
And then in about 3 years ago, maybe 2 years ago, he sold it, become the last piece of real estate. He did a 1031 exchange and put a large investment in a medical facility in Hammond, Indiana, a medical dialysis center, and they get their check every month. He's in his assisted living now and pays for his living requirements.
How
So
cool is that?
So it's just
Yeah,
a
no
good way to do it.
concern. Yeah.
Okay, so there are two risks is they don't renew, but we try to mitigate that. Like, that's why we like the medical. They are there long-term. Now, retail is a little more risky, Family Dollars, and there's been some Family Dollar move outs. So we try to mitigate that. And Tractor Supply is really a good tenant. Dollar General, but, you know, and you try to get it leased up. I mean, but it does happen from time to time. You just release it. Okay.
Well, I didn't appreciate how good the tractor tire stores were until we started seeing a plethora of them in Utah.
Tractor Supply, yeah, there's one up in Bountiful, there's.
Well,
there's
Love our
there's
Tractor Supply.
100 of them in the state.
Or the other risk is the tenant files bankruptcy, you work through the bankruptcy issues. And so we try to mitigate that too. Okay. So if I get in, how do I get out? They can sell their individual piece, and they can sell a portion of it. If they buy it for $200,000 or $300,000, they don't have to buy sell the whole thing. They can sell a portion of it.
And that costs them how much, like 6%?
Typical transaction expenses.
It's a real estate
6%.
transaction.
6% real estate fee, and I've done that for people. And
I'm just curious, just because right now in retail sales, we're changing. We're not a typical 6% anymore. Sometimes it's 5, sometimes it's 4, but it's 6%, and that is who you charge that. And
Right.
so.
well, so I can charge that so that if an agent is referring someone, not only do they have the choices of the ones that are being sold out, but they have what I call owner sales. So that they can look at those and say, well, I can get a 3% referral fee if they buy a owner resale. So I'm not compromising that 3% referral fee for the referring agent.
So the person that sent them in, that gets the 3%, if they sell, did they get part of that sale, or that goes to who the new buying agent?
Whoever they
is?
buy, yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Okay,
Curious.
so here's
Yeah,
what,
that's a good question.
here's the last, how does it work? There's we've talked about the 3% referral fee. What you do, step number one, hey, I've got a client that may be interested. You kind of plant the seed, so to speak, say, well, there's this whole tenant-in-common option for you. You explain a little bit about it to say, hey, Conrad and Brent work in that industry. They've done transactions. Let's get them involved. So you call or you send an email, say, hey, Joe and Ethel Smith, here's their phone number, here's their situation, give them a call.
And you're very good with follow through. Very good. The clients aren't always, but you are. I've had firsthand experience where you've been really fast to get in on it.
And the real estate agent, the real estate agent can be involved in the process as much as you want to be. And it's a good education for you to kind of walk through the whole process, but you can be as involved as you want. So then we have all the marketing materials. I just got, here's the samples of properties. This is the property in Snowflake, Arizona. It's a Family Dollar property we got. We just finished this one, this medical facility in Georgia. There's a Dollar General coming online in Georgia and in New Mexico. Here's the summary that I have is the choices right now for people. We always like to have 3 or 4 choices, not just one.
So in fact, Brent and I put together a little 8.5 by 11 packet that's bound. It's about a 1/2 inch thick of information specific to what your client's concern and interest.
I think you have one, Lynn.
Yeah.
That bound up. So a lot of people like the older generation. Electronic is okay. Email, we have it all on email, but somehow they like to have a hard copy. That's okay. There's no difference. They can read it, look at it, and touch it and fill it. And so we do either way. It depends upon we've got hard copy, we've got electronic, either way. But we have all the marketing materials and we walk them through it. We get it close from start to finish.
So we can actually go out, meet with, somebody that's interested in doing it, make the presentation. The buyer agent can come with us. We sit down, explain to the potential purchaser what it's all about, answer any questions. That's part of what we do.
I've done several transactions long distance.
Yes.
Never met the person in person, but now with Zoom and, you know, FaceTime, you know, you can, if you want to see somebody, you know, and have, or a telephone call. I mean, I've always talked to somebody, at least on the phone. And, with a person in South Carolina, a person in you know, I mean, all over the country, so.
Yeah, it
They
doesn't
don't have
be
to be
just
somebody
local
right here
And
in
the
Utah.
agent does not need to be there.
Well,
In
and
most cases, when we've met with clients, it's been,
That's
just
a great,
us.
that's great, because my mind was focusing to certain parts of Utah, but, you know, EXP is a worldwide
yes,
brokerage, so any of
So
our
we in
agents
fact can
anywhere.
help
Yes,
agents
anywhere.
anywhere,
anywhere.
Yeah, anyway,
anywhere.
Awesome.
it worked, it just worked.
We
You-
have a
you-
class on
you
finding.
register your
landlords that
client,
Want to
We
retire.
go make it happen. And then when it's closed, you get the 3%
Even
referral.
present anytime. Anytime you need a presenter.
Yeah.
present.
It's a great way to own. It works. I mean, like I said, I just added up the other day, it's close to 90 million, maybe it's over that a little bit, but
I think so. Renee.
you know, in the last 18, and there's a lot more people out there that could use it, so.
Well, this is a great conversation starter too, with your past clients, your friends, your families, your wannabe investors. Just even posing the question on finding out who is tired of being a landlord, but they don't know what their options are to get out.
Right.
Well, and the baby boomers is a huge group of people.
Mhm.
We are baby boomers. So
I am?
our age, you are, you know, we
We
are,
just call
and
you
so there's a
boomer.
really large
Oh,
group.
Conrad's the boomer.
There's a
Yeah,
large
baby
group of
boomer.
people who have invested, who are close to our age. Not that that's the only group.
You guys
Well-
thought you were really important, but the millennials are a lot bigger than you.
It is.
I would also guess that some of these older landlords that have owned for a while have more equity than they realize.
Right.
And they're not cash flowing like they should be because they don't raise rents on a regular basis.
That's correct. They
And
don't
so
keep
it
up with
could-
the market.
Correct.
It could be actually a step up for them to increase cash flow and get more equity working for them.
Oh, yes. We've seen that.
Yep,
And some, I've had 2 or 3 people want to capture this increase in value and rent too, because they don't know how long it's going to sustain itself.
Yes.
So they sold while the market's high and he said, there's no way I can get 5 or 6% on the value of my current realtor property. I can't raise the rents enough.
right.
The market won't let me do that. The people move, I'll be vacant. Well, nobody wants a vacancy. I mean, it doesn't take very many months for that return to go way down. So.
Well, here's another thing to consider, guys, that would help out your investor landlord clients is they may be selling, say, 2 million, let's say $2 million worth of equity that they might be transferring to someone else. They probably paid 500 for it. Probably paid that years ago, and so their depreciation schedule is quite different than if they now step up their asset basis, they get a new depreciation schedule too,
Right,
which helps them
right.
tax wise.
Right, correct. Well, there are 3, a lot of people don't realize the taxes. There's state capital gain, there's federal capital gain, and there's recapture tax. And a lot of people say, what in the world's recapture tax? The third tax? Well, you add up all your depreciation that you've taken since day one
Add it back in.
and times it by 25%, that's the
Yeah,
additional
hurts.
tax.
It hurts.
And they say, holy moly, where'd that come from? That's why I say it's 30 to 40% of your sell price when you add all the taxes up. And not only that, it changes your whole tax reporting bit. You know, it changes your taxation because it increases your income. It's, you know, so anyway, it's not only is it 30 to 40% in taxes, but your income tax reporting changes too. Puts you in a different tax bracket.
So if you take a $300,000 house, which we hardly have any of those, you times that by the 6%, that's $18,000. Divide that by 12, that's $1,500 a
Right.
month that someone would make. And when I look at my houses that are worth like maybe around 350,000, my rents are very close to that. But I've got all of the things that I have to take out of that. I have
Yes.
insurance and maintenance and the hassle of my tenants. And so that's pretty damn good. That really is. I mean, so I think it would be us helping our clients by showing them these things, really.
Right.
And they'll thank you. They'll thank you for saving them.
They always do.
Mhm.
A lot of
Yeah.
people, you know, a lot of
They
older
always-
people want to have control too. They say, well, wait a minute, what control do I have? So the question is, another question is, can I get, if I get in, how do I get out? You can do that. They talk about what's the appreciation, maybe we talk about that. You know, you're not gonna lose money, but you're gonna get your cash flow and there'll be some appreciation. But what's control do I have? Well, you have control over the property. There's a tenant-in-common agreement that allows the owners to make the decisions, and you have a voice and a vote. You can talk to the property management company at any time. You have, you know, what do you mean, control, what control do you want to have?
Mhm.
So you have,
What would you
so you
really-
analyze what control really means to that person. You know, well, you have absolute control over your piece. You can sell it, keep it, will it, sell it, whatever you want. So, you know, my dad at 95 said, "Why, I want to have absolute control, right?" And I want a 50% return too, by the way. I said, good luck, you know. Well, even if you can find it, you won't want the risk associated with that return,
No, no.
you know.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
this is the best low risk return out there for
Well,
people that
you have been doing this for years,
Yeah,
and that's why that's why he's so passionate about this particular product, because he has found it to be the
Well, it solves
safest.
problems for people.
It solves
Mhm.
problems, and and most of the clients, almost all of the clients that I have met with you, Brent, have been really, really appreciative.
a lot of people say, why don't you have a web page and have testimonials?
He doesn't need it.
I don't need it.
He doesn't need it.
I've
He just
got-
gets a referral from
The
it.
product
happy
sells
clients.
itself, you know, and I say, look, and I tell my clients, look, we're in this thing until I'm not around. We're gonna have a long-term relationship, because if you have a question, you call me, and they do. You have a question about structure, you have a question about the property management, we talk. So it's a long-term client relationship that we provide them. How we do it on time?
So we're at the
Are
end.
we at the
Just-
end?
Well, just a comment.
Okay,
So.
Can I
Brett
ask
and I
a-
have recorded 7 videos, introductory videos that are on YouTube that you can take a look at.
Do you have a contact slide in this presentation?
Uh,
Contact information?
Brent,
No.
I have a few questions.
well, we got some questions, go ahead,
Do it.
we're ready.
Like, you know, how it differs from a partnership. As far as like, you know, with a partnership, if you have ownership, at the end of the year, you get a K1 from those partnerships. And, you know, you get some deductions and that kind of thing. How is this treated as far as tax and depreciation, you know, and all those things with that property? Does an accountant, you know, prepare something like a K1 for those?
No,
TIC?
the property management, good question. The property management company, at the end of the year, in January, you get a 1099.
Okay,
That states your rental income that you need to report on your taxes. Then you as an owner decide how you're going to depreciate it. Are you going to use the straight line depreciation of 39 years on commercial? Are you going to use component? You're going to use accelerated depreciation? You can make that decision. So what I do for mine, so I get my 1099 at the end of the year and I report that on my taxes. And for my write-offs, I take the property, what I bought in at. I do a land value of like 20%, which is safe. Some people want to do 10%, but I do 20%. So I set up an 80% of my buy-in, my investment, and just do a 139. So I divide by 39, that's my depreciation. That's what I do. That's what I recommend to people. But you can work, if you want to be a little more aggressive, and say, well, I'm gonna reduce the land value down to 10% and do depreciate 90%, you can do that.
That's a CPA question.
Yeah, that's an accountant
Individualistic.
CPA question, right? But that's the way it's done. You get a 1099, and then you wait with your accountant, decide what your depreciation schedule is gonna be on your investment.
okay, very good. Thank you.
Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Any other questions? Okay.
You have the contact.
Oh, here's my
Hey,
contact.
guys, screenshot this. If you can see that. Can you take a picture of that? I don't have a slide for him.
On the beginning, it's there. At the
Yeah,
first
in the
slide.
beginning.
Oh, let's
If
go
you
back to that
the
first one.
beginning, how do you go back to the beginning? We'll go all the way back to number 1. It's got on my picture. Yeah, there it is, right there.
Perfect.
Okay.
Right.
Perfect. So yeah, when questions come up as you think about this or as you talk to clients, feel free to reach out to these guys.